we're going to start off, once we get settled in here, we'll start off with a question for Alex. Just curious to get a general overview of what your experience has been like this far with WoTA. What positives have you seen? Do we have some microphones?
I'll shout. No, I think that the example that's worked so well and is testament to WoTA working well is probably through Whirlpool. That's been the success story, and I think that sort of transcends down to, you're a great advocate of Commingling yourself, Peter. But that's the test case that has really shown what we've been doing in good light.
In terms of raw numbers, the Whirlpool, you've seen major increases in liquidity, I assume, from that, as well as just promotion of different international products around the world?
Yeah, no, it's been transformative for not just the punter, but for the underlying sport, which is absolutely what we're here for. So we started off with very, very small numbers. We'd rather not mention where we started from. But we've now got liquidity per race of around ending up to 10 million sterling at the very, very top, which is is a huge leap forward. It's not quite the daily liquidity that Hong Kong sees, but it's a massive step forward.
I've seen it as a punter. I mean, you can have real bets, and there's now those days for me as somebody who loves to play horses around the world. I'll circle them and make sure I'm paying attention, so I know firsthand exactly what you're talking about. This is a great segue into a question for Michael, because, of course, the Hong Kong Jockey Club, one of, if not the biggest tote operators in the world. From your perspective, what benefits have there been to WoTA?
It's a good question. Why are we here? I guess it's an important question. When you think back to how WoTA started and Whirlpool started, we did a bit of commingling with Africa in the initial days, but it was really through WoTA that we partnered with UK Tote, with Ascot, to start Whirlpool. And how that's grown over the last 3-4 years, is through forums like WoTA, where we've got to spread the gospel to the various members, and it's been very successful for everyone. Don't need to tell anyone in this room that liquidity is why we're all here. So bringing that together has been very important through WoTA. And again, where can we? It's not what we've done. Where can we go in the future? I guess is just as important. We can look at data. I think that's tremendously important. How we standardise data, not only transaction data, but so racing data, how we build new products, how we standardize rules together. So I think where we've come is a long way, and where we can go is hugely important as well in terms of making sure that we're all aligned. Why are we here? Why are we in America? We can spread the gospel to the United States in the way we've kind of successfully done in Asia and Europe. So we've come a long way, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow significantly over the next sort of 3-5 years.
Great. Well, there's so much to follow up from that, but we'll come back to that, because I think that's also an excellent segue to Keith and talking about what the WoTA experience has been from a USA perspective and how that back and forth has worked.
Sure. So first of all, another good question. And I have a little bit of perspective going back, not only for WoTA, which I'm proud to be a part of, we're proud to be a part of, but going back to predecessor associations as well. So Tote, wearing my Tote hat over the past 2 decades plus, has grown substantially internationally. So yes, we're a US-based company, and yes, we have US-based operators as our sister companies and clients as well. But Tote has enjoyed the success of WoTA and associations like WoTA, like EPMA before it, EAP, AATA. I don't think I'm leaving any of them out. But that's been a huge part of enabling Tote to support that, as well as the US operators, North American operators, along with the worldwide operators. And why? Why does it do that? Well, this association and the others before it provide a great conduit for the groups to come together to talk about what's going to be required for technology. There was a day, it wasn't all that long ago, where we couldn't communicate. So it brings us together for that reason. It also brings us together and allows us to collaborate on regulatory efforts that sometimes are required to enable what we want to do to commingle. And then, of course, the business relationships. So there's a tremendous amount of value that is provided for our organization and the operators that we serve. I'll say on a personal note, I think I'd be remiss, but on a personal level, It's been great participating in these associations because I've met a lot of great friends throughout the world. Many of them are in this room, and that's incredibly fulfilling. So there's a ton of value to WoTA and associations like it in the past. You know, one of the things that our industry, like we're facing lots of competition like other industries are, but we do have something that's quite unique, and we have to remind ourselves from time to time, and that's our ability with pari-mutuel to commingle and cooperate with one another. The more we commingle, the more we grow the pools. We talked about liquidity. The more we provide compelling, more competitive products together, the better we are to fend against that competition, even though we may compete against each other in some markets, but we are all together and share that common interest. So WoTA helps us to drive that, and you know, I think the proof is in the growth that we've seen, not just with WoTA, but in the prior 20 years.
The words that Vanessa shared earlier from Drew Fleming come back to mind about the rising tide lifting all ships, and also the idea, the sort of modern business idea of co-opetition. When I hear you talking about that, it's not about fighting for the piece of the pie, it's about trying to make the pie bigger, and I sense a lot of that in the WoTA mission and the words I'm hearing from the panel. As we continue our spin around the world, I'd like to go to Germany and find out how the whole WoTA experience has evolved from a relatively smaller operator. Have you seen benefits as well?
Yes, of course. As you said, I think in the big pool betting family, we are the smallest child. So yes, for us, it's really very important to have this commingling, because without this, to show, Germany has 280 meetings per year. So in average, not one meeting per day. Right. And without commingling on foreign races, it's nearly impossible to be competitive against the bookmakers. We are in a competitive market in Germany. And so now we have a sufficient product. We have a lot of meetings we can bet on. To show the figures, in the normal business, we have point of sales and online. We are doing something like 120, 130 million euro per year. And only 15 million of this is in domestic pools. So we have more than 90% of all our business is commingling, betting on French races. So German Tote is owned 51% by French PMU, 49% by the German racetracks. But yes, 90% is commingling, and only 10% is betting on our domestic races. And so this is the reason German Tote was funded, to be competitive and to have a product for the people. They like betting the shows. We are able to have a good amount of pool betting turnover, but we don't have the product inside Germany. Another good point within WoTA, of course, this year we are really proud to be part of the World Pool Project, and we had 6 races the World Pool was organized on this year. On the 6 races in the World Pool, a bit more than 18 million euro. On all Gollab races, domestic stakes, this year will have 27, 28 million euro. So this shows what big amount could be done worldwide. So for us and for the German racing industry, to be honest, without the chance of doing commingling, doing pool betting together with Hong Kong, with PMU, with the UK Tote, with US races, Swedish races. So we have all the products, and without this, we are not able to co-finance the German racing industry. And to be honest, I think we would have even stronger decrease of meetings if we can't continue. So for us, of course, this year we are happy that we got a lot money back on domestic races. And yes, we have partners like Tabcorp, like PMU doing separate pools. And we even commingle in these separate pools. So sometimes we have A and B pools we are offering to our customers. But now we see a chance, and I think there is a big opportunity for us, of course, to bet on the foreign products, but there's another good chance to get additional money into the German sport.
And that helps the worldwide racing industry, I would say, just as a racing fan, a fan of like the bloodstock market, by keeping German racing strong. I mean, these are bloodlines that we've seen succeed around all around the world, and by keeping your racing economy robust, I really think, I think that just helps the breed of the thoroughbred horse. So that's got to be a good thing. One of the things that's changed the most since the advent of WoTA, at least here in the US, has been the proliferation of sports betting and this new opportunity / challenge that it presents. Ylva, I want to bring you in because, of course, tote betting can be used for more than just horses. In fact, the global annual handle on sport pools is around 2.5 billion, with 85% of that being on what the world would call football and we would call soccer. I want to talk to you about the ATG Big Nine and hear what future you see with other sport pool offers from around the world.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, within racing, horse racing, we have been cooperating, commingling for many, many years, and it's a success story, and with Whirlpool, we're taking the next step. When we look at pool betting with sports, it's no tradition at all. There's usually like a monopoly, like lottery, state-owned lottery who has a sports pool, and very few occasions there is a commingling or cooperation. But I sense now, with the strength of WoTA, that things are changing because now we see opportunity for sports betting to commingle to each other. And of course, for ATG, when we had new legislation, so we had the opportunity to have online casino, but also sports betting. A sport pool product was, of course, a very, very important step for us. But we also faced a lot of challenges because in Sweden, we are competing with a 90-year-old very good product, which is from Svenska Spel, who is now a member of WoTA. So it's not been very easy to build a liquidity. So we see the international market as very, very important. And I am a member of the working group for sports pool here in WoTA, where we have been, during a couple of months, had some meetings, and we have a short list of products, which is one of them is Big Nine, but there's others like Colossus for racing. Others have interesting products as well.
I want to hear a little bit about how the specifics of the sports betting products work for the uninitiated. I think there's a lot of Americans saying, like, how does that even work? What kind of offering it can be so appealing to the punter to have the success that you've had with that Big Nine? Yeah,
it's multi-leg, but it's like multi-matches. So Big Nine is 9 matches. Strict Tipset is 13 games. It's usually a very high takeout product. It's a pool product, so you create a lot of liquidity, and you can win lifetime changing money. That's the whole idea. So it's usually if it's football, soccer, it's 1x2, like a home win, away win, or a draw.
Right.
And for Big Nine, we actually also chose to have over and under 2.5 goals, also to attract that's a very, very popular bet if you go to the fixed odds products, over and under.
It's really a combination almost of like a lottery mentality with a sporting mentality and a way for the both to intermingle, making the high takeout normally not something super appealing from a betting point of view, but when the reward is that great, in the same way that somebody will spend money on the Powerball, you have an opportunity to do it in a little bit more of an interactive way.
Exactly. So you could attract like a lottery type of person, but you also, hopefully with football and top European football, it's a global interest. You can also attract a huge, huge audience, even though, this young generation that everyone is aiming at. And I think with the knowledge assets, the licenses, and the technology that the Tote companies in this room have, we have all the best opportunity ever to create something. And if there is going to be one or several products, we will see. It's an ongoing discussion, but I think we will have a breakthrough very soon.
Interesting. In my capacity as a horse racing podcaster, I'm very familiar with the ATG product and the fantastic standardbred harness racing that you have over there. Do you think there's an opportunity specifically in harness racing for something like the Whirlpool to support those events around the world? I mean, harness, what I've learned is it's just this tremendous international sport.
Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, we have almost 30 corporations. I mean, PMU is not a part of WoTA, but I mean, they are also very big on harness racing. Prix d'Amérique, Elitloppet, but we also have a lot of very good US races. There should definitely be a Whirlpool for trotting. And I would like to ask you, Michael, can Hong Kong consider to take this very perfect, good product into your warmth?
It is a good question. You know, as you said, rising tide lifts all boats, and it lifts big boats as well as little boats. And when we talk about Germany, good for you, but it's also good for us. Even keeps our point of stickiness for our customers. But again, we don't have a breeding industry, so supporting other breeding industries is important to us, and it's good for everyone. When it comes to trotting, we should get to the stage where WoTA is providing the technology and the access for the world to commingle. We might not choose to enter that pool, but it's certainly the place to go for the world to commingle when they can, and that's got to be one of the foundations that we all work together, both technically and standards-wise.
This is a tough question, Alex. I'm going to throw it at you. One thing I like to do sometimes when I'm trying to persuade somebody of something, in this case we're talking about the benefits of commingling. One thing I like to do is take the other side of the argument, debate team style, and come up with not the straw man argument, not the thing you say at the cocktail party to dismiss your opponent, but you go for the steel man argument. You try to think, what's the good argument against commingling, if there even is one. But I was just curious to know why. There really isn't. So it's just all about the politics. So what is the barrier that some jurisdictions haven't been into it? Is it all down to politics?
I think it is. I think that's the reality of it. I mean, there are a lot of people who are big naysayers. I mean, common rules was a big sort of barrier, wasn't it? And I think where there's a will, there's a way. Suddenly 24 countries are coming into the same pool, not least this weekend for the Breeders' Cup. So I think what's crucial for cut-through is that the consumer has a very, very good deal. And then, the problems that Martin Pervick was referring to earlier, it also, that we've not only got other sports to compete with, fixed odds operators to compete with, illegal operators to compete with, unless the product itself is compulsive. And I always think that the Euro Millions example is a really good one, where suddenly, you had a sort of floundering lottery system across Europe, and then lottery operators realised that the only way they had genuine cut-through as a product was to get together and to have huge lottery wins or the opportunity for big pots. And then suddenly you've had a huge revival in lottery across Europe. I mean, really, commingling is no different. I mean, what we're trying to do here is offer outsized liquidity. I think where we've got to be very careful always is the price point. We do not want to be, historically, pool companies have been offering products at the wrong price, hugely expensive. And, when you've got the level of competition we've got, and, consumers ultimately have VPN access now, they've got, mobiles that have transformed betting. So suddenly it's a global environment that they're in. We haven't got this closed shop that we had previously, where countries could literally just lock people down and bet into their own lotteries and pools.
No longer the only game in town by a long shot. And I think that's a great point that was sort of the implicit conclusion of the previous presentation too, was how do you keep people out of illegal markets? Well, give them life-changing opportunities, give them fair pricing and compete. Essentially, you have to look at it that way. You can't just put the head in the sand. Keith, I wanted to ask you a question about another benefit I see of the pool commingling, and this really applies to everybody, but I think of it from a USA perspective, the ability to have, I love wagering, and the ability to be able to do that essentially around the clock. I think that's a really interesting idea. Do you think that's compelling enough from a USA point of view to push the idea of growing the idea of the Whirlpool and doing more to promote all different jurisdictions throughout the United States?
You must have read my mind, actually. We did not talk about this, but when I look at things that we should do moving forward and opportunities that I think we have, look, we've done a lot together, and there's a lot of collaboration happening today, certainly much more than there was 5 years ago and 10 and certainly 20 years ago. I do think there's untapped opportunities. I do think that North America in particular is probably underserved currently in terms of the global distribution and commingling into the pool. It's grown, but it probably hasn't grown as much as other markets have and enjoyed that. And some of that's time zone concerns and mismatches of schedules. But no, I think that's an untapped opportunity that needs to be progressed.
I've got a lot of wild friends who stay up all night betting Hong Kong. There definitely is an interest, even with some of the time zone challenges. Now, I could ask you guys questions for the rest of the afternoon, but that's not what we're here for. I want to open things up so we can get some questions for our panelists from the audience out here as well. So we have a microphone here if folks want to either flag Florence down or come up to her. We've got one in the back row there. Looks like Mr. Cummings has something to say. Always interesting to hear the words out of his mouth. So what's up, Pat?
Thank you. Pat Cummings, director of the newly nationally formed, National Thoroughbred Alliance, newly formed. Question for everyone, but I wanted to start with Michael. Liquidity itself is not a virtue alone, right? Liquidity is wonderful, but the customer experience is very varied across the jurisdictions represented on the stage and in the crowd, certainly. So while it's great to have that liquidity at first glance, if the customer isn't getting all of the information or getting the information equally, there are problems that are created by that. And we saw one here in America on British Champions Day where even to this day and hour, I checked, I defied what Martin said earlier and was on my phone. I checked to see Americans still see a British Champions Day winner at 52-1, but it paid 17. American betting operators did not get the last flash. 20% of the cycle was not reflected and still has not been reflected to this day. I had bettors reaching out to me saying, this horse 50-1, why did I get $38? Right? What is being done at a WoTA level to encourage best practices, to update technology so that all downstream providers of this information have proper cycle updates, and taking Hong Kong's leadership role in providing updates to the public on how the market is changing? You're absolutely the best in the world at it. And I referenced the Hong Kong website to show people, look, this market really did move, and here's the picture of it. Can WoTA adopt best practices or suggest best practices to tote operators around the world as to how to reflect to the public how the market is changing, how exotic bet types are changing, color code pricing, show the market moving as opposed to just a bunch of blank screen with numbers? Is there a movement to maybe get universal tote best practices and get that into the hands of customers worldwide who are making that liquidity happen?
Thank you. It's a good question. To just go back a step and talk about, sort of follow on from what Alex was saying, part of the reason where we all are globally is the disparate nature of historical tote betting. So different taxes, different takeout rates, different approach to professional customers, and big differences in technology. We are all limited by the ITSP technology protocol. And it is our ambition in Hong Kong to move everyone from ITSP onto a bet-by-bet protocol over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, one by one, because you're absolutely right. The customer experience is absolutely paramount. When we're taking on fixed odds operators, we can't have this anymore. That you don't know the price, you don't know when it's going to change, you don't know how it's going to change, and you have this perception of unfairness. So to your point, it's something we're trying to align on in terms of standards, how we do things, how we engage with each other in commingling, but there's a big project in Hong Kong underway at the moment to build out the platform and to build out the new protocol. So we will have bet-by-bet streaming to each other. We can choose where to commingle, but we can do it in a framework where you can have different takeout rates, you can have different products, and you can put it together through smart technology. And over the next couple of years, we will be rolling that out. We're actually integrating in the UK at the moment, and over the next sort of 12 to 18 months, we will make that available to everyone in a way that's for the benefit of the industry, and also potentially moving into future products. Once we have bet-by-bet processing, we can put out Bloomberg-style tools. We can see, you can graph charts, stop orders when a price hits X. I want $100 on it. We can provide that technology, and that's the roadmap which we have set out, and we're working towards over the next few years.
This is a tough question. Why does it take so long?
Why does anything take? So you have to build. This is built on smart contracts. So it's taking something that we've done for 40 years and changing it. Which you have to upskill teams. You have to engage with suppliers. You have to engage with partners. It's not a straightforward. It's not a straightforward technology thing. But within the context of a wagering platform, which works, you don't want to break it as well. When we're dealing with something as valuable as Hong Kong racing, we don't want to make a mistake along this journey, so it is a very safety-first approach. But when we get to that stage, absolutely, it'll increase quickly. It's
an exciting prospect for sure, and I think would deal with a lot of these issues that frustrate us. I have another follow-up, but I want to get the audience involved, so if somebody else wants to jump in, maybe I'll ask my question while we tee up another question, Florence, if you want to try to find the brave soul who'll go next. And I'll ask another perhaps unwelcome question to Keith just about USA Tote technology. I remember after the infamous Fix6 scandal 20 years ago when they put together the panel of industry experts and bettors, and the number one recommendation was about updating USA Tote technology as a way to combat not just impropriety, but like the appearance of impropriety in terms of late odds changes, etc. Not a whole lot's happened except in terms of patching existing stuff. Do you see a world in which the USA is ever able to have the willingness to invest in a more modern system of the likes that we're talking about?
You've read my mind again, actually. So yeah. First of all, you'll get a double dose of me, and you'll hear some of our thoughts from Amtote's perspective and what we're doing in terms of movement forward and what we're investing in the tens of millions into the platform, into the, I'll call it the ecosystem, and you'll see why when we go through that. There have been a number of things, and you can say it's patchwork. There have been a number of things that have been done on the U.S. or North American Tote network. One of the things that's interesting, and even people that are close to it, like myself, sometimes lose sight of it, is the North American market has a challenge that, as far as I know, and somebody can correct me, that no other major racing operator in the world has, which is, Hong Kong has Hong Kong's Tote. Australia has Tab Corp, and yes, they have a Tote for each of the states, but they have a single Tote of record, basically, for hosts. South Africa, Sweden, thank you. The UK. Basically, each one of those networks have a single host platform. When you get to North America, you've got three of us. And we all have to intercommunicate. So not only is it three different companies with three different technology stacks and three different ways of implementing ITSP and three different ways of implementing how we do odds cycles, which result in major disparities that people don't know. I know, but people don't know. The average bettor doesn't know, and they don't care. So those disparities amongst the three companies, as well as the fact that even if we didn't have disparities in how we've implemented things, the fact that we're having to communicate with that kind of a network as opposed to a single system of record, even with ITSP, makes it a huge difference in terms of innovation, in terms of the occasional discrepancies you see. We just had one recently on the Pick6 out here at Santa Anita Park. Those types of things are much more common to happen because of the way the North American market is structured. That's just the way that it is. That's not an excuse for technology. It's not an excuse for not advancing it, but it should be pointed out. But then I'll get into, yes, we see, similar to what Michael said with Hong Kong, we do believe that a transactional protocol is the way to go. ITSP has served the industry, but it's time to move on from ITSP as we know it. We're going in that direction. And again, on the North American market side, it's important that you realize that once we do that, and part of what I think this association and then that we have to do amongst ourselves as operators is make sure that we don't get held back by the least common denominator. We all need to move up to that level. Otherwise, you still are somewhat trapped by the underpinnings of the old technology.
Yep.
But that's the direction we're going. And like I said, I'll show a little bit more in the brief innovation panel. But,
Great. Yeah. That's very cool. That's a great answer. Do we have anybody else? I think we do, right here in the front row.
Ed Cummings here, so you're getting 2 Cummingses for the price of one. Yeah. I'm the president of Watch and Wager. I think the Whirlpool is just brilliant. It's really done our business great, but it's all about the tech. I mean, there was a horrible incident at Caulfield, and I don't think anyone from United Tote are here or the Australians are here, but where free bets were. 3 of the Whirlpool codes were put into the Tabcorp B pool, without any permission whatsoever. Okay, so that's like a big player, as you know, we trade in big players. That is like buying a suit from Jermyn Street and finding out it turns up from blooming Marks and Spencer's. So the tech has got to be improved. I'm not expecting any answers because none of you are involved, but the tech has just got to be improved, and we will support it. Anyway, cheers.
All right. Well, let's give a nice round of applause for the panel. That was fantastic stuff, team. Appreciate you.